Two sisters took a DNA test for fun, but what they uncovered wasn't ancestry, it was evidence. Evidence that tied their bloodline to a crime buried for 16 years. A grandmother's journals, a vanished father, a past built on lies. They thought they knew who they were until one test shattered everything. The attic smelled of dust, old wood, and secrets too long buried. Faded light crept through a small round window, illuminating stacks of photo albums, cracked jewelry boxes, and cardboard cartons bound in brittle tape. Naomi and Selah Carter stood shoulder to shoulder among the clutter, twin sisters bound by blood but split in spirit. Naomi carried herself with restless energy, always diving in head first. Selah was cautious, meticulous, a believer in rules and order. They had promised their mother they would clear out the attic after their grandmother's death. Weeks had passed, and guilt had finally forced them up the creaking stairs. What began as sorting heirlooms soon became a search through shadows of the past. "Hey, look at this," Selah murmured. She lifted a small box hidden beneath a pile of handwritten journals. The words Ancestry Journey were printed across the cardboard, the logo faded but unmistakable. Naomi tilted her head, curiosity flashing in her eyes. A DNA kit? Grandma never mentioned doing this. Selah shook her head. Looks like she never got around to it. She cracked the box open carefully, as if afraid of what might spill out. Inside lay 2 sterile vials, instructions folded neatly, and prepaid envelopes that had never been used. Naomi's lips curled into a mischievous smirk. "Well, maybe we can finish what she started. Could be fun, right? Who knows? Maybe we've got royalty hidden in our bloodline." Selah rolled her eyes, but she read the instructions anyway. Within minutes, Naomi had swabbed without hesitation, while Selah double-checked every step before doing the same. Their samples slid into the envelopes with a sense of finality neither of them noticed at the time. They laughed about it that night. The idea of uncovering something exotic thrilled Naomi. Selah teased about long-lost cousins or mysterious origins. Neither could imagine how those swabs would upend their lives. 2 weeks later, the email arrived. Naomi opened it first. Her eyes lit up with excitement as Selah leaned over her shoulder. The first page was harmless enough, a blend of African and European ancestry, nothing surprising. But then, in bold red text, came the words that froze them both. Significant findings. "Please consult a specialist," Selah's brow furrowed. "What does that mean?" "I don't know," Naomi whispered, staring at the screen. "But we should ask Mom." Their mother, Elaine, was in the kitchen when they called her. She entered smiling, but when her eyes caught the alert, the color drained from her face. Her smile collapsed into silence. "Let's not jump to conclusions," she said carefully, though her voice wavered. "We'll take this to Dr. Caldwell tomorrow. He'll explain it." The thrill of discovery curdled into unease. Something in their mother's tone told them this was no trivial matter. The next morning, the 3 of them sat in Dr. Caldwell's waiting room. The smell of disinfectant clung to the air, mixed with faint murmurs of other patients. Naomi tapped her foot anxiously, while Selah scrolled her phone in silence, her eyes darting to her mother's stiff posture. Elaine clutched her purse so tightly her knuckles whitened, her gaze fixed on the door. When they were called in, Dr. Caldwell greeted them warmly. But the warmth didn't last. His face shifted as soon as he opened their file. His fingers stopped mid-page, his eyes narrowing as though he'd uncovered something he wished he hadn't. "What is it?" Elaine asked, her voice sharper than she intended. Dr. Caldwell hesitated. "I need to review this carefully before saying anything definitive. Do you mind if I step out?" The room grew heavy after he left. The ticking of the clock on the wall filled the silence, every second dragging like a hammer against stone. "Mom." "What's going on?" Selah whispered. "I don't know," Elaine replied softly, though her eyes betrayed her. She knew something. She always had. The door opened again. But this time, Dr. Caldwell was not alone. 2 police officers stepped in behind him. Their expressions were hard, their presence colder than the sterile walls. "Naomi Carter? Selah Carter?" one officer said flatly. "You'll need to come with us." Elaine shot out of her chair, rage and fear crashing into her voice. "What is the meaning of this?" They're just kids. Dr. Caldwell lifted a hand gently. Ma'am, there's been a discovery in their DNA. I cannot discuss the details here. But it is a matter of legal significance. The floor dropped out from beneath them. Naomi's breath caught in her throat. Selah's phone slipped from her hand, clattering on the tile. What did we do? Naomi stammered. It's not about what you did, the officer replied, his tone measured. It's about what your DNA revealed. Flashes exploded as soon as they stepped outside. Reporters swarmed, shouting questions, cameras snapping like gunfire. The ordinary world the sisters had known was gone in an instant, replaced with the suffocating glare of suspicion. The ride to the station was silent, the hum of the car an eerie soundtrack to their spiraling thoughts. Naomi stared at her reflection in the window, her ghostly image merging with the city racing by. Selah clutched her mother's hand, clinging as though the grip alone could anchor her to safety. Elaine sat stone-faced, her silence heavier than words. At the station, the sisters were separated from the crowd and led into a small, sterile room. A plain table. 3 metal chairs. No windows. Only the hum of a flickering light overhead. The door creaked open, and a tall man in a gray suit entered. His voice was calm, practiced, deliberate. I'm Detective Rourke, he said, pulling out a chair. His eyes were sharp, calculating. We need to talk. Detective Rourke leaned forward, his tall frame casting a shadow across the sterile table. His face was stern, carved with years of experience, but his eyes, steady and deliberate, carried a trace of empathy. I know this is overwhelming, he began, his voice calm, practiced, almost soothing. But you need to understand this isn't about punishment. We're trying to protect you. Protect us? Elaine's voice sliced through the air like glass. Her hands clutched her purse so tightly it seemed she might rip the fabric apart. Protect them from what? You haven't told us a thing. Rourke didn't flinch. He opened a manila folder and slid a sheet across the table. Naomi and Selah leaned forward, their eyes scanning the highlighted lines. The words at the bottom burned into their minds. Genetic match to unresolved criminal investigation. The room tilted. Selah's breath caught in her throat. What does that mean? She whispered, her voice trembling. Rourke's tone hardened. It means your DNA matches evidence collected at a crime scene, an open case that's remained unsolved for nearly 16 years. Elaine's face drained of color. What kind of crime? For the first time, Rourke hesitated. He looked at them all before speaking, his words heavy and deliberate. An abduction. A child stolen in the dead of night. Naomi shook her head violently, panic bleeding into her voice. That's impossible. 16 years ago. We were babies. Yes, Rourke replied. His voice lowered, grim. And that's why this is unusual. The DNA doesn't place you at the scene. It suggests someone tied to you. Someone close. The biological material connects directly to your bloodline. Elaine's hands began to tremble. She pressed them to her lap, trying to hide the quake. No, she whispered. Then louder, her voice cracking. No! That's a mistake. My family would never. Naomi cut her off. What about Grandma? The words landed like a thunderclap. The silence that followed was suffocating. Detective Rourke's gaze sharpened. Your grandmother. Did she ever talk about secrets? Anything unusual in her past? Elaine shook her head too quickly. Absolutely not. My mother wasn't like that. But Naomi and Selah exchanged a glance, their minds flashing back to the journals they had unearthed in the attic. We found her old journals, Selah said quietly, her voice hesitant. She never let us read them. Maybe there's something inside. Rourke's eyes narrowed with interest. Those journals could be crucial. I need you to bring them to me, Elaine bristled. No, I won't. But the words caught in her throat. She saw the pleading looks on her daughter's faces and finally slumped in defeat. Fine, she whispered almost to herself. We'll get them. But this has to be some kind of mistake. It has to be. The family left the station in silence, but a question gnawed at them, circling like a vulture. What secrets had Margaret Carter taken to her grave? Back home, the air inside the house felt heavier than ever. In the living room, a box of worn leather-bound journals sat on the coffee table. It loomed like a bomb waiting to detonate. Naomi and Sela sat side by side, neither wanting to touch it first. Finally, Naomi cracked open the first book. The handwriting was unmistakable. Elegant, looping letters, delicate but firm. The words at first seemed harmless. Recipes, notes on neighbors, fond memories of simpler days. But as the pages turned, the ink darkened with something else. "Listen to this," Sela said, her voice tightening. She read aloud. "The night it happened, I couldn't sleep. I heard the car pull up. I knew something wasn't right. And when I saw the package left at the door, my heart stopped. I didn't want to get involved. But what choice did I have? I had to protect them." Naomi froze. "Package? What package?" Elaine leaned forward, her hands trembling against her knees. "Keep reading." Sela flipped through to another entry, the ink jagged as if written in a shaking hand. "They're safe now, but I can't stop thinking about that night. Every time I look at them, I wonder if they'll ever find out. I'm taking this secret to my grave." The words strangled the air out of the room. Naomi's voice cracked. "She's talking about us." Elaine's face crumpled, tears welling as she shook her head. No, that can't be right. You're my daughters. You've always been mine." But the journals told a different story. Page after page, fragmented details painted a chilling picture. A car pulling up in the dead of night, a man's shadow across the porch, an infant carrier left like contraband. There were no names, only hints of guilt, fear, and an oath to protect. "Do you think we were adopted?" Sela whispered, her voice breaking. Elaine buried her face in her hands. "I don't know. I thought you were mine." "I never questioned it." "I swear I never questioned it." And then Naomi found it, a single envelope taped to the back of a journal. Inside were 2 birth certificates. She ripped them open with trembling hands. The word mother, unknown, stabbed like a knife. But the father's name? The name was one they had never heard before. Yet when they returned to the station and handed the documents to Detective Rourke, his expression hardened instantly. "This name," he said, his voice low. "This man was our prime suspect in the abduction case. He vanished years ago." The room spun. Naomi and Sela weren't tied to the case. They were the case, but why? Naomi demanded. "Why would someone leave us at Grandma's house?" Rourke's face was grim. "That's what we're going to find out. But one thing's clear. Margaret Carter knew more than she ever admitted. She may have been protecting you from something, or from someone." The truth was unraveling, thread by thread, and each page of Margaret's journals pulled them deeper into the abyss. The family was no longer just a part of history. They were at the center of it. Sela's voice shook as she read the faded words aloud, her hands trembling against the fragile paper. "He came back looking for them. I lied. I told him I didn't know where they were. He threatened me, said he would return. I have to keep them safe." The air in the room grew heavy, suffocating. Naomi felt her stomach twist. "Who's he? And why would he come after us?" Elaine sat rigid in her chair, her coffee mug trembling in her hands as if it were the only thing tethering her to reality. Her eyes were distant, her voice a whisper when it finally emerged. "Your grandmother was always protective. I thought it was just her way. I never imagined she was hiding something like this." Detective Rourke confirmed what the journals only hinted at. The man listed on the birth certificates, the shadow that haunted every page, was no ordinary name. He had been a known associate of a human trafficking ring, a monster cloaked in the guise of family. The case had gone cold after his disappearance, but the twins' DNA had dragged his sins back into the light. The revelation tore through the sisters like glass. Naomi's voice cracked one evening as they sat together, the words barely escaping her throat. What if he's still out there? The silence that followed was unbearable. Even Detective Rourke, usually unflinching, could only answer with caution. "We're doing everything we can. Every resource is on this case. But the trail is faint." The thought chilled them. Somewhere beyond the walls of their home, A man whose blood ran through their veins might still be walking free. But the questions that kept them awake at night weren't just about danger. They were about identity. Selah whispered the thought neither had dared to voice aloud. Does this mean Grandma saved us? Naomi stared at the floor. Maybe, but it also means she knew we weren't hers. And Mom didn't know either. Elaine, overhearing, stepped into the room. Her voice cracked, but her resolve was iron. Stop. Listen to me. You are mine. No matter what papers say, no matter what blood says, you are my daughters. That has never changed, and it never will. Her words were fierce, but her tears betrayed her. They comforted, but they could not erase the unease that gnawed at the edges of their lives. As the investigation pressed on, darker truths surfaced. Their biological father wasn't only a suspect, he was a fugitive, wanted for crimes that reached far beyond abduction. Violence, exploitation, lives ruined in the shadows of greed. And yet, the cruelest paradox of all was this. He had also been the one to ensure the sisters' survival. One final journal entry confirmed it. He said they were in danger. He begged me to take them, swore it was the only way to save their lives. I didn't believe him. But when I saw the look in his eyes, I couldn't say no. I don't know what he's running from, but I know I will protect them with everything I have. The words broke them. Their father, a monster to the world, had left them at Margaret's door not out of love, but out of desperation. He had abandoned them to save them, a truth both heartbreaking and merciful. In the weeks that followed, the media storm slowly faded. Neighbors still whispered, but the frenzy moved on. Detective Rourke continued to chase shadows, but the trail remained cold. The sisters learned to live again, though the scars of revelation would never fade completely. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Naomi and Selah sat on the porch with Elaine between them. The journals had been boxed away, but their words echoed endlessly. Grandma did what she thought was right, Selah said softly, her eyes on the setting sky. She protected us, even if it meant burying the truth. Naomi nodded. She gave us a life we never would have had otherwise. And Mom, she's been our anchor through all of this. No DNA test can change that. Elaine wrapped her arms around them both, pulling her daughters close. Her voice broke but carried power. Family isn't about blood. It's about who stands with you, who fights for you, who loves you without condition. That's what your grandmother believed. And it's what I believe too. For the first time in weeks, Naomi and Selah felt something close to peace. Their journey had ripped apart every certainty they once held, but it had also rebuilt something stronger. As darkness deepened, Elaine's final words hung in the air like scripture. No matter where you come from, it's your choices that define you. Never let anyone else decide who you are. The twins smiled, their fear giving way to a strange, fragile hope. Their story had been one of terror, betrayal, and secrets. But beneath it all, it was also a story of resilience, of love that refused to break, and of a family that chose each other, even against the darkest truths. And for Naomi and Selah, that was enough to face whatever came next. What would you do if one test unraveled everything you thought you knew about your family? If this story moved you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more untold truths, where the past refuses to stay buried.